The whole journey of building the boat's a pretty cool thing.
I loved it then, I still love it now. It's been fantastic.
Why do people choose Assegai?
I remember he said to me, he goes, Craig, we could pick any boat in the world and our first choice is an Assegai. And I told Dad that and I went, well, that sounded pretty nice to hear that.
If there's a tournament on and there's an Assegai fishing in it, the other boats will move away from it because they know they're going to pull the fish up.
You're listening to the Rising Tidecast, the podcast for sharing the stories, the lessons, and all the good stuff from legends in the marine industry.
Welcome to another episode of the Rising Tidecast. Today we've got Barry and Craig Martin with us, the father and son duo behind Assegai Marine. Barry is a legendary boat builder and has crafted some of Australia's most amazing custom game boats with his son Craig. And personally, I've fished on Deploy many times, and man, that is awesome boat. After a little break, you guys are back in the shed and currently working on the biggest game boat yet that you've built right behind us. Thank you guys for being on. This is awesome. You've got a great story. I'm excited for people to hear. So, Barry, how did you get into boat building? Tell me where the journey started.
When I was 15, I had to get an apprenticeship in boat building or my father was going to have to drown me. So I was lucky enough to get an apprenticeship with John Hardy at a company called Striker Boats, where they built aluminium boats. Some of them were pilot boats, some were police boats, some were sports fishing boats. Yeah, all styles of boats, which was a great experience under John Hardy.
What was it, do you think, that drew you to boating in general, way back when?
I first fell in love with boats when I was a young boy, going down to my grandmother's place at Lota, getting on a push bike. I couldn't fit over the bar, so I put my leg through the side and pedal the bike in a funny way. But I got down to Lota Creek and I just fell in love with timber dinghies and timber boats. I just look at them in awe that someone could build that. So that's where my love for boating started.
Did you kind of grow up with a similar love for boats?
Yeah, exactly.
Your childhood and kind of growing up, did that involve a lot of time on the water together, or it was mostly time in the shed building boats? What did that look like for you guys?
I remember helping build Granddad's houseboat when I was this big, basically in nappies. Yeah, helping build Granddad's houseboat and hanging out down on the Doughboy Creek there at Hemmett. Yeah. And yeah, fishing out with Dad every weekend out in Moreton Bay, all that stuff, and beach fishing up at Fraser. And
it's a special thing to grow up like that, I think. Barry, when you had that apprenticeship first and were working with John, or somebody told me at Skibbs, he's the god
of boat building, yes.
Was that an instant hook for you, that when you were building boats there and learning from him, what are some of those things that I guess you knew that this was the right thing?
Oh, yeah, I loved it then, I still love it now. Yeah, it's been a fantastic trade to get into, no regrets.
So when did Assegai become a brand?
First started with a fellow by the name of Greg Edwards, nicknamed Muddy, who I mentioned to him after working on a boat called Warrigal that I would love to build a game boat. And he said, well, if I get an owner, will you build it? I said, I sure would. He got onto a gentleman by the name of Dr. J. Meyer, and we went about building Dr. J. Meyer a boat, which was called Assegai, and 6 months later I called the company Assegai Marine, and that's how it all started. Assegai's a funny name. I have to spell it 40 times a day. People get the pronunciation wrong most times.
What do they say mostly?
Assegai, or you name it.
It's something out of Japan.
Yeah. But anyway, the first boat was built for Greg Edwards and Dr. J. Meyer, and she led the way to the next boats which come along. And the next boat particularly was for his father, Mr. Bill Edwards, known as the Eagle. And Bill Edwards was one of North Queensland's legendary skippers.
Yeah, right. And how big were those boats back then, like those first few boats?
And the Assegai was a 46-footer, and the one for Bill Edwards was Aquila, named Aquila, which is now named Monarchia. She was a 43-footer, 44-footer.
What do you think is like the best part of the build process for you guys? What's the most exciting when you get to what stage?
I think launching's always good, and sea trials.
Yeah. And right back at the other end, standing the female construction case up and putting the first few planks in there and just watching it all come to life is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That hull looks pretty special sitting in there, doesn't it, when you...
Oh, yeah.
How many boats are we up to today?
20 sports fishing boats.
Yeah, the one right before this one, that was a beautiful one as well, wasn't it?
Deploy.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for that boat. It's raised many fish with me on it, so I'm very thankful from a content side of things that you guys build fantastic boats that raise fish.
They do raise fish. Well-known skippers tell us it's because the timber cord hulls give off a different noise to the marlin, which attracts them and raises them up so they can jump on their hooks.
Yeah. What's really unique about the boats that you build in the marine industry? What do you think stands out to you? What do you think, Craig, too?
Oh, the seaworthiness, the solid construction, and the quality. Every piece is structurally glassed into the boat. The whole boat is one big structure. There's nothing sitting in there creaking or anything. She's just a solid machine.
I've definitely never heard a creak out there in big seas. As far as like the wood you choose and how you guys do it, the part of the process, like take me through from design to kind of where we are behind us right now. What does that look like?
Oh, well, firstly, you get an understanding for boats going through the water and how they go through the water. And what has helped me a lot over the years is all the feedback I get from the skippers. That is most important. And to set up a proper game boat, you need that feedback, which has been invaluable to Assegai Marine.
How involved are the owners in the build process?
The owners come along and tell us what size, what length, what sort of a layout they want, what sort of engines they prefer, whether it's in survey or not in survey. Most of them are in survey. We just go from there.
I know there's a few really unique things that stand out to me about your boats after seeing progress builds for this boat in particular. I think just the level of craftsmanship is unreal. Tell me a bit about your team, but the things that I'm thinking of that are nuts are like, you know, the rounded corners in the transom. Like, is that something that is standard practice, or is that a unique thing for Assegai?
Again, it's all feedback from the skippers. The rounded corners are not there to make it look pretty. They're there for the rod tips to clear the corners when they're on a fish.
And how do you build them? Like, tell me, because that's a work of art to see it behind before it gets glassed in and, you know, built around.
We just have a former in the corner, and namely that's just the radius at the top is an 800 mil radius, and then down the bottom it's only about 50 mil. So what we have to do is we do them in planks of Western red cedar, and they're normally about 45 at the top and about 2 mil at the bottom. So as they all go around the boat, around the transom corner, that's how we form the radius corners and blend it back into the rake of the transom.
Yeah, if you measure around the circumference and divide it by 45, that tells you what you want to divide the bottom by as well. So you'll have 4 mil at the bottom by 45 mil at the top, 40 mil.
Awesome.
And by the time it all glues together, you're praying that the last one is the same.
Well, I guess that also brings it back to the team that you guys have here, right? You were telling me before about how important that is, and you guys are kind of like a well-oiled machine and a few other things. Talk to me about the team that's on this build.
Yeah, we got the best bunch of guys we've had for a long time. Everyone's really experienced and knows their role to play, and everyone has each other's back in each field that they're attacking. Yeah. So, yeah, it's good to be able to trust everyone.
How long is the build process for one of the boats generally, like around, I guess, similar size?
I'd say 2 years on average.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah. This one we got a rolling start for the first 12 months where we had a small crew on it until we finished the boat before, where we got a proper start a year into it. Yeah. So it's hard when you get a rolling start to include that.
This particular boat's for Morris Nautical. She'll be going up north and she'll be working alongside their motherships. So it's going to be one hell of an operation going on up there.
It will be, for sure. And wood boats, I mean, they take a lot longer to build than, say, a fiberglass boat. What do you think? I think that's too, a lot of the, I guess, companies, they'll do one or the other. And the bigger ones in the States, you know, they'll do a lot of fiberglass. But there's a lot of benefits to building a wood boat. What are some of those benefits, you think, the biggest ones of timber construction versus fiberglass?
Well, we have a timber core, which is the Western Red Cedar planks, and then it's fiberglass to either side using epoxy resin, which gives it superior strength, absolute superior strength, and lightweight. At the moment, as you see that vessel there now, with the deck and cabin on and the hull, admittedly the bottom's not glassed yet, but she's at a weight of 8.5 tonne, which brings it right into, with the horsepower that's going to go into this vessel, it'll bring it right in. It'll be that close to 40 knots, it's not funny.
Yeah, right. That's amazing. Because you think fiberglass, usually, you know, you're associating that with performance, right, and speed, whereas stability is a big thing too, I think. And I've been on deploy with and without the gyro on, and it's super stable without it as well.
Yeah.
And I think the industry also is kind of going a little bit more performance focused rather than stability focused. What are your thoughts about that?
Healthy weight down low and light up top. Yeah, seems to work well.
Yeah, like the boats are good without gyro stabilisers, but they're really good with them.
Yeah.
And it's a lot safer for everybody aboard and way more comfortable.
Do you think it's changed the way that people are building boats that you've seen?
Yeah, most people nowadays having a boat, they require a gyro stabiliser.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the trailer boats going that deeper and having that much dead rise that they sort of rely on the gyro to bring it back. So
yeah, starting with a solid foundation is probably a much better idea.
Yeah, you want a boat that's going to work with or without.
Yeah. Well, you were telling me too before in the office about Assegai's reputation in the sport fishing scene, especially in tournaments and stuff like that. What were you saying before, Barry, about?
Oh, just that if there's a tournament on and there's an Assegai fishing in it, the other boats will move away from it because they know they're going to pull the fish up. Well, that's what we've been told anyway.
Yeah. With this build in particular, like what's brought you back to build this one and what's exciting about working together too? That's pretty cool. Like father-son duo.
Yeah, when I retired, and Craig at that time wasn't too interested in taking it all on. So he had a bit of a break away from it. And then one gentleman by the name of Sam, who's with Morris Nautical, found out that Craig could build Assegai boats.
We were building Paddy's boat.
That's right.
What was that one?
That was a
35-foot, like a gentleman's cruiser, but it was a workboat that was beyond the workboat. And yeah, I never posted pictures, and I put a little post up and Sam said, "What's this? Use a back?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "What do I need to do to be next in line? How much money do you want in your bank account?" I said, "Just a handshake and that would be enough to put you in the next cab off the rank." And it was meant to be a 55. And Dad and Corey were talking and said, why don't we just go 1 foot bigger and a bit extra horsepower than ever's been done? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm the one building it. But anyway, go.
Nothing like a challenge.
So here we are. And Sam's like, oh, okay, 55 sounded good. And next minute we're doing a 61 with 3,100 horsepower and away we go. Yeah, but exciting.
Yeah, we're all excited.
Yeah, it's going to be something special. If the ploy, it's basic, the ploy's big sister. So it's, if that works well, there's good hope for this one.
Yeah. Oh,
She'll be powered by main engines. Each engine in this one will be 1,550 horsepower, V12s, which we're really looking forward to.
One other thing too that you said in there is when Sam came to you, what did he say? Like, why do people choose Assegai?
I remember he said to me, he goes, Craig, we could pick any boat in the world and our first choice is an Assegai. And I told Dad that, and I went, well, that sounded pretty nice to hear that.
Why do you think that is?
I reckon just the high quality and the seaworthiness.
And they have got a good name out there.
Yeah.
To me, that sounds like part of an amazing legacy that you guys get to build and leave behind too, which is a pretty special thing.
For sure.
How is it working as a father-son duo? Do you love it?
Yeah, we're really lucky. Yeah, we have plenty of laughs every day and we're serious, but we know how to have fun. If you didn't find a bit of fun in doing this stuff, it'd be a pretty tough job.
yeah.
So good sense of humour and a professional attitude. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Craig's actually built every Assegai with me, every Assegai sports fishing boat. He started when he was 15. There's only one boat he didn't build with me was Assegai itself, and that was because he was too young.
I did do the refit on it. She had a major refit.
How cool. You probably would have been around a bit, I'm sure, while it was getting built anyway, right?
I didn't see Dad for the duration of Assegai being built. He barely come home.
80 to 85 hour weeks.
85-hour weeks, yeah. Big days.
Yeah, that's a phenomenon how they built that in the time they did.
Yeah.
But I think men were different back then.
Yeah.
Not as many smokos.
Yeah, no smoko.
Take me back to that first build though, because that's pretty cool. Like, what was that like? Why the tight time frame too? Like, what was special about it?
Oh, well, nobody ever built one in that fashion before. I went and talked to some of my boat builder mentors and they said, oh no, you can't build a boat like a Meccano set. So I was told it wouldn't work, and don't do it. So I went away, didn't listen to any of that, went away and built her anyway. And to this day, all of the surveyors and everybody else, even on Assegai, the very first one, has not got a stress crack or a mark anywhere. And she's on her third set of engines in 35 years.
That's high standards, like for craftsmanship. What's part of that process to make sure that, I guess, how do you make sure that all the boats meet that high standard quality?
It's the epoxy resin we use. And nowadays there's different materials around, like Armacell foam that we use for our engine girders and some of the bulkheads. Yeah, just the different products. But the big secret is the epoxy resin.
Yeah, right.
Every bulkhead and piece of furniture is glassed in, and that's our way of welding it to the hull.
99.9% of boats are built out of polyester resin, but the epoxy ones they're the special ones.
Right. Is there a downside to it? Why do people not use the epoxy resin instead of
No
polyester?
downside, only the
Cost. But the polyester's used where they're pumping them out of a mould and having a gel coat finish.
Yeah, all boats couldn't be done this way. It would take too long, and people couldn't wait that long.
Good things take time.
That's one thing too. People like that it's a one-off item. Like the hull that came out of that female case will never be made again. So it's a special item that's not being reproduced. You could build one beside it and it won't be exactly the same.
Yeah, true one of one. Tell me about some of those evolutions of design. Every Assegai gets better, right? Because of your input that you take from captains and stuff, right?
From the skippers, yeah. Their feedback is quite important. With that, we make the next boat that little bit better. Like years back, we never used to put solid vents in, the fiberglass vents in. They were cut out. The hull was decored with a router after the fiberglass was on the outside. And then that part was all filled in there with epoxy filler. And nowadays they're all done in solid fiberglass and then glassed over the top in the glassing operation. It's just things like that we're changing. We've got the anchoring systems down pat now, the exhaust coming out where it does on the transom. That's not there because it looks pretty. It's there because it works when the boat's underway and there's the water going down the side of the boat sort of starts to curl over and forms like a little umbrella, and the exhaust goes away with the wave.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Coming down the side of the boat.
Instead of getting the back eddy and sucked up all over the transom.
Yeah.
And I noticed you guys also, you don't use spray strakes on any of your hulls either.
No, we've sort of went off them. We have put them on some boats, but by putting little convex sections here in the front area of the boat, that's what also gives you lift, and you don't have that slapping noise at night when you're trying to have a sleep. So you can get the lift. I've been able to get the lift in these boats without planing strokes.
Yeah, the balance is a big thing, right?
The last deploy, we put a little bit of
4 degrees of angle on the chines, which just turns the water down that little bit better.
Those little things, like being so particular about the little details that make every boat a little bit better. Like, what is it behind that? What excites you about and wanting to do that for every boat?
I guess you just want to make everything better. If you don't make it better than the last one, you're not getting better.
You're standing still.
Yeah. And it's just amazing getting the feedback of Kleiny and stuff, and he just froths out over his boat, and it's a really nice feeling of job satisfaction to hear that it goes so well and does everything that it's meant to. So it's good for your soul.
Yeah. Well, and you guys do an amazing job. So they're beautiful, beautiful boats.
It's funny that you think so much of who's buying the boat that I'll hop in my car and go, you know what, I really like those people. I'll go back in and check for air again. So when you're getting along with the people you're building the boat for so well, you wanted to go the extra mile and impress them. So
yeah.
The last owner Craig had for the little boat called Diamond Girl, his name was Paddy Diamond, and Paddy was just the most brilliant guy to build a boat for. Not saying the other people weren't, but...
No, he said his saddest day was when he drove the boat out of here. We become more best friends than an owner and a builder. Yeah, it's pretty cool when that happens. So the whole journey of building the boat's a pretty cool thing. Just the people you meet and the little group that it brings together.
And that's something that's so unique to you guys, like custom boat builders too, because you've got the one here, right? You're not pumping out multiple at a time, and you're fully dedicated. Like it's like a relationship that you get to form with.
It's our little tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Sam's really good fun to hang out with. I've been for a few boozy lunches, and they're really great people, eh, Dad?
Oh, him and his wife, Emily.
Yeah.
They certainly are.
Yeah, that's something that's awesome, part of the whole experience for you guys, I would imagine, besides the building these beautiful boats, but just getting to make new friendships with great people like that. When you think of one of your, I guess, favorite builds, or even one of the challenging ones that you overcame, what's one that stands out for each of you?
Oh, I've liked all of them. But one special one, sorry,
You go.
was the Force. She was a little 40-footer with lovely big wide chines, different shape, underwater shape, and nothing like these current ones, but she was a pretty special little boat to me.
What was special about it?
Oh, just the reverse tumble home in the transom.
Teak transom.
Teak transom, very, 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 very stable in the water. when she was sold at one stage of her life, she come in for a refit where engines were replaced from the old 3208 Caterpillars to the C9s, the modern C9 engines. And she went out, she did about 25 knots before. She went out after this and done 32 knots. The new owner took her over to Fremantle from here, on the coast here, across the Great Australian Bight, all the way over to Fremantle, and said the boat was just faultless.
What an unreal trip that would have been. And a testament to great engineering, right, and design. What's your standout story?
Something different was a 38-foot trailer boat we did called the Jackal.
Right, oh yeah.
Yeah, just having its own little prime mover in front of it and being able to be launched at the boat ramp was pretty cool. It's just the ultimate fishing machine. Yeah. And he just goes out and fills the whole thing full of reds and all the good stuff. So, but I love all the game boats too. Katana was amazing. I really liked the name Katana and working with Sharky, and Deploy was really cool. Learning off Kleiny what his all his input there. They're all special in their own right.
It's got to be cool to build something that people get so much enjoyment out of and being on the water, so many days, right?
Yeah, totally.
When I was talking to a friend, Stubbsy, I was talking from Onboard Engineering, he said, how much, I guess, of the maintenance as far as like engines and gensets, being able to remove them, like, is that a big part of the design process? Because he's like, they make my life so much easier. But I mean, just to be able to look amazing and how great it does, but still be able to be so accessible from a maintenance side of things.
Yeah, well, the engines in this particular vessel are going to be removable by a hole in the cabin top, which will have to be cut. But they are removable. But we've designed the layout with Sam from Morris Nautical. So there's hatches above the engines because on the V12s, they require, when it's a major service on the engines, you've got to be able to access the top. So it's possible to have them both lifted up and everything's clear to work on the engine. So that's important. If you can't do that, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to cut any of this or as little of this apart as you'd have to, right? What's one thing you think people get wrong about when they think about custom boat building, if they're getting into it or they want to get one their own? Like
a lot of people aren't prepared to wait. They're eager beavers and want it now.
I met somebody at Skibbs and he told me your view on build quality and compromise. He said it's either built to a standard or a price. Is that kind of goes along with that, or is that not?
I've watched Dad rather go broke building the ultimate boat than trying to make $1 out of a business. Yeah, Dad would rather put his hand in his own pocket to make sure it's all done properly. Seen that many times.
Well, I think that speaks to the passion about loving what you do, right? Talk to me about the future. Like, what does that look like for Assegai now that you guys have, restarted this?
Well, it's good for Craig, and I'm so pleased he's carrying on.
Yeah, I just love having our crew that we got. I don't want to conquer the world. I'm just happy building one nice boat at a time and getting it right and building all these beautiful designs that are in that computer in there. So bringing them to life, it's really fun, and rewarding.
Is there a lot of innovation that you're blending with traditional ways of doing things? Like, what are the new things that you're bringing in but still maintaining that, classic methods? And
not too much has changed.
Yeah.
All the vacuum bagging and infusion isn't really worth our time. We're still all hand laid. We know every square inch is perfect when we've done it. We're not sort of guessing what's happening underneath. Yeah, and it's just not worth setting up when everything's one off and hand done. Everything's worked for us this long. If it's not broke, we don't need to fix it.
Yeah, it's a good thing to live by.
One trick is with the hulls, prior to putting the main layers of fiberglass on the outside, we make sure everything is put into the hulls, like bow thrusters, extra glass in where the travel lift will pick her up, water intakes, trim tabs, exhaust outlets. you name it. It all has to, scuppers, air vents, everything has to go in first. And then the main, it's all ground up, and then the main glasses goes on, and then you have a properly built boat with no possible way of water ingress into the core.
I saw upstairs, you make a lot of mock-ups before you put them in, before you build them. What's the reasoning behind that? Because they're amazing mock-ups, like just unreal. Sam was telling me when he said, the mock-ups are so beautiful, I'll get so upset when they throw them away.
Well, it's a lot cheaper to get that right than to get the item right, so if the mock-up's right, the mould's going to be right, because we build all little one-off moulds for everything.
Yeah.
And just getting the heights and making every screen and instrument fit in there beforehand, so it's a lot easier to tweak and adjust that.
Yeah.
And you get a feel, even for layout, we'll mock up the saloon and get a feel for everything. And 9.5 times out of 10, it's what's on the computer anyway. So it's just a bit of insurance.
Now, I'm just looking around here, and I can see up here there's a box which will go up into the anchor locker, and it has the spurling pipe built in, the stainless steel spurling pipe. But what that does is keeps the anchor winch out of the salt air and water, keeps it as dry as a bone, along with the reversing solenoid. And even the side of that box, which would yet to be glassed in there, has glands where all the wires pass through, the big heavy-duty wires. So that's the detail we go to in building these custom-built boats.
Yeah, right.
So in 10 years, your anchor winch will still
look like the day it was bought.
It's amazing. It's the little things too, I think, that set you apart besides the big, obviously, construction process. You talk a lot about, with the mock-ups and things like that too. It's feel, right? It's in the plan, but it's also important to kind of, I guess, experience it before you build it in real life instead of just on the computer. How much is that a part of the process, even like looking at how different angles work and how different elements of the boat come together? Like, is that a big part of the process of the experiencing it before you build it for mock-ups, or no?
Oh,
Not really.
No, it's mainly just a fit out on a cabin or something.
Yeah.
You just want to get all your proportions right and make sure the mattresses are going to work at different heights with all the funny shapes of the hull. The cabin isn't mocked up or anything like that. We don't hold stuff up there. It's just, it is what it is on the computer. And
Yeah. Do you guys ever get out to fish?
I love fishing.
Yeah?
Yeah, I had a break for a little while, but I got the bug real bad again. So anyone who wants a boat built has to take me fishing twice a year. No. That's in the contract. No.
That's great. I love that.
No, I love going out the frontier, flicking for flathead. Yeah, Dad and I used to do a heap of fishing. Muddy used to take us out, all out off Morton and stuff, and just have the best catches ever, eh?
oh yeah, snapper and
Dolphin fish, bluefin.
Awesome. It's important. I would imagine you don't get a ton of hours outside the shed all the time, but to get out and experience it, it's a important thing.
Yeah, totally. We did a nice overnight trip on Zulu with Casey and, got stuck into the Nanagai and all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
I do love it, yeah.
You bet. I hope you put 2 trips in the contract for this one.
Yeah, no, Sam signed me up for that already. I told him it's going to be hard to get me off the boat at the end.
Yeah, it will be. It definitely will be. I'll have a couple like rapid fire funny questions for you guys so you can answer them. Live bait or lures for when you're out?
Both.
for these boats,
Yeah, just for you for fishing. What do you think? Live bait or lures? What's your favorite?
live bait.
Yeah.
That last trip I went on, the lures were good at lunchtime, and on dark, the live bait was brilliant. So
Depends when, yeah. What's the most painful part of building a boat? What do you think?
how long it takes? The amount of man hours that go into it. Yeah.
What do you think, Barry? What's the most painful part of?
Oh, never come across any yet.
Love that. This speaks to the passion and the love, right? If you could only build one size forever, what size would it be?
No, people want all different sizes.
Your favorite?
For what you get into, say, a 51 footers, they're good. 55 is slightly better. 61's awesome. I don't know.
74? What is that one?
76,
Yeah, 76.
I'm going to go with the 55 that you're drawing up.
Oh, yeah.
I like it. It's got
Yeah.
a nice stand.
That's been drawn up again for Morris Nautical, which are going to be a great company for Craig to have and myself to have an association with,
Yeah, yeah.
especially with Sam running it. Good future for everybody.
Good people. It's important to work with good people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's one thing on new boats that you see that you shake your head at?
Game boats have changed over the years. Like many, many years ago, they were lucky to have a toilet. Now it's aircon, gyro stabilisers, Eskimo ice machines, you name it. It's all got to be there.
Creature comforts, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think bring it all on. It's nice, the more comfortable you can make it and nicer, do it.
Yeah. What do you think something about your story that we didn't talk about that stands out or that you think people don't know about Assegai?
I know with Assegai, when you're picking the name, you were trying to pick a name for the boat and you'd drawn a spear on there just because it looked sleek. And Roger said
That was Roger Simpson.
Roger Simpson was...
Yeah, he drew the first boat for us. And he drew a straight line with an arrowhead on it. And he stood back. He had flashbacks from when he was a young child in South Africa at his grandfather's. And he had this assegai spear hanging above the fireplace with a couple of little hessian strings. And Roger stood back from the drawing board, because it was done on the drawing board back then. Might have been computer. Anyway, he drew this line with an arrowhead, and he said, that looks like an assegai, meaning the spear hanging above his grandfather's fireplace in South Africa, which was given to him by a Zulu chief. So anyway, Greg Edwards, standing beside him, Muddy, as we know him, said, well, that's a good name for the boat. Roger's saying, no, I mean the spear here. He said, yeah, I know what you meant, but it's a good name for the boat. And it was put to the owner. The owner said, yeah, that'll do. So
That's awesome.
And as I said earlier, the boat was called Assegai, and I called the company Assegai Marine 6 months later.
Yeah, amazing. Well, how do you want Assegai to be remembered if you think 10, 20 years down the track? Like, how do you want the business to be looked back on and legacy-wise? Or you'll still be probably building boats by then.
Yeah, we seem to
years,
have a pretty good name out there, which is great. They're proper fishing machines. I don't know, just blokes in there having a go, building a good boat.
Yeah.
I love that.
Just, quality boats that are seaworthy and fishable.
Yeah.
Yeah, our main priority is that they've got to be able to go through a sea, not pound their way through one.
There's a beautiful old 43 retro Dad's designed, and it'd be a crime not to build that. It pays tribute to all the vintage.
Cairns boats.
Yeah, paying tribute to Frankie Woodnut and stuff would be pretty cool to do one day if someone out there backs the passion.
Yeah, I've met Frank Woodnut on quite a few occasions. He's passed now, but what a lovely, lovely guy and a legend up north.
One last thing. Is there anything that we didn't talk about? I think about the journey and how you've built this business and what you guys do together. I think it's really special.
It always hasn't been easy going. Back in the early days, it was some tight going at some stages.
What were some of those times like?
Imagine trying to have the money there to pay all the wages every week, and it wasn't always bed of roses. Yeah.
No, it's far from it, really, wasn't it? I don't know how Dad did it, building the boat to a price, because there's so many variables that owner-builder is really the only way to build these, and it is what it is when it's finished, so...
I've asked Craig not to try and price one. I could never do it, and I had plenty of practice.
Yeah. So owner-builder, how does that work then? So they will basically just pay materials, wages, and then part on top for you guys to build a boat for them. So it's
yeah, they're winning. We just get a wage, and we know all the bills are paid for, and we just keep turning up and doing our best.
It's a good feeling because then you're not sinking into...
Oh, yeah.
It takes the stress out
You're not
of it.
waking up every morning thinking, oh, it's today the day my wife and I are going to lose our house.
Yeah.
Because the bank always want backup for when you have a line of credit. But anyway, Craig doesn't have that problem.
Yeah. Well, you've taken a little while to get there.
I learned off Dad not what to do. No. No, just fortunate enough to have the reputation and the trust that people will sign up for that. For Paddy to sign up and to say, yep, here you go, boys.
He didn't sign anything, did he?
Oh, no, but to sign up owner builder under, yeah, he pays the hourly rate, pays the bills.
Yeah, that's having faith in Craig.
Yeah, because I could, if I dropped the ball 6 months in, he's the one left. But it's good that they trust me because... Yeah.
Oh, it's everything.
Yeah.
What does Assegai come out to generally, like dollar-wise, by the time they're finished?
Oh, these days it's nearly impossible to price. When I say that, the Western Red Cedar for the planking, for the core, used to cost for, say, a 50-footer, around the $25,000 mark. And that was leaving enough Western Red Cedar to do the fit out inside, for bunk framing and stuff like that. This boat, when we ordered it all in, since COVID, the prices have quadrupled.
Wow.
This Western Red Cedar for this particular boat was up around $95,000.
Yeah. You can't anticipate that.
Yeah. No.
Everything has...
Yeah.
I see a lot of house builders are all doing the same these days because it's tricky to navigate.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah.
Addy was very happy with the price of his, and we were all happy with our wage as well, so it was win-win.
Yeah.
I think he'd turn around and sell it for a profit if he wanted to, so...
Well, the latest Assegai have been selling for a profit.
Yeah, I think Deploy went up the hill a bit, didn't she?
Yeah. Testament to a good build quality, right? It's hard to find things that appreciate in time that you get to have so much fun with.
Yeah, Dad told me one day, he goes, they'll be collector's items one day, mate. You watch this. And it's funny, I think Dad retiring, people really want what they can't have. So...
Since I've come back, I've really been enjoying it.
Yeah?
Yeah, doing the different designs of this design and program all the CNC router and cut all the stuff out for the guys.
Yeah.
There's been that much cut on that CNC router for this boat, it's not funny.
He's our best employee, that thing.
Yeah, he doesn't even have smoke out of the CNC. But we're not finished with that yet either, because when it comes into the final fit out, she'll be doing all the cabin doors, all the bunk boards, everything will be done on the CNC router.
Wow. It's amazing, isn't it? Because then everything gets so exact, right? Oh. That's what everyone
next level, yeah. Within 100 thou of a mill's pretty good.
Wow. That's insane.
That's close enough.
Yeah. What else are you loving being back now that you've kind of had some time off?
Well, I was doing caravanning with my wife, and that was good, but just enjoyed coming in with Craig and...
You like having smoko with horse?
Like having smoko with horse. Joking.
Yeah.
It's just good to have the band back together. And
keeps the head working too.
Yeah.
It's healthy, yeah. It's a good, healthy thing.
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you guys so much. I love what you guys are doing. I'm excited to see what the next few years hold. And you heard if anyone wants a 44-foot, is that right?
43.
43? Reach out.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. No, thank you guys, and thanks for listening on the podcast, and definitely give you guys go follow the journey. It's a special one.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Cheers, mate.